Hello my friends and happy Wednesday to you. You survived Monday and Tuesday and you know what I survived? I survived the Ukrainian trip, my sixth trip to Ukraine. It was a lot of fun and I know it's weird hearing, oh it was fun in Kiev, war zone, but it was such a beautiful city, amazing people. We got a few missile attacks, but you know, a roundhouse kicked those missiles back to Moscow, so we're all fine. In this video I'll be showing you what we did there and throughout the next days I'll be giving you snippets of what happened in Kiev. But I want to start with an eye candy for you because I know you've been like, you need this. You haven't gotten any videos for a week. So we'll start with something visually pleasing. Ukrainian troops on a speedboat with a brownie mounted at the front of it. And there's like 7 guys, 8 guys. It's a whole squad with full equipment. As you can see, water, bags, everything. Now I'm guessing this is not the Dnipro, because you cannot see any shores. This is the Delta Islands of Dnipro, or it's all the Black Sea. Now, the way these guys have all their equipment and they have this boat, I'm guessing these are some kind of special forces. Now, I might be wrong, correct me if I am wrong, but the negative part, one of the Estonian guys fighting in Kherson was telling me that the other Estonian guy, he knows his entire boat was blown to half by a Russian FPV drone and all of the guys died except for him. So he was the only one to survive and he is Estonian. He lost all his gear, so I'm trying to find a way to get him his gear back, like trying to fund him a little bit. So the negative parts, I cannot only show the positive, and I'm sorry to bring this in, but these boats are destroyed also in big numbers by Russian FPV drones and by Russian drones that drop munitions down below. Now, Ukraine has mustered up a sizable fleet of these, let's call them small attack boats, rubber boats, however you call them. They're very necessary across the Dnipro. They're fast, agile, and quite quiet compared to like bigger boats. And over the Dnipro, there's a lot of fog. So when it's foggy weather, you can do whatever you want. Go across and come back, because no kamikazes can see you. So it's good and bad. I'll show you both. Now, my friends, this video illustrates you perfectly what it means to have China as your main ally in a war zone. These are Russian guys, military procurement guys who ordered or who are responsible for testing tourniquets coming from China. Let's see how the test goes. And again, tourniquet is the seconds between life and death on the front. Tourniquet is the very thing that saves the lives of a soldier in the first 2 minutes. After that, stabilization points do the rest. This is responsible for thousands of Russian lives. Let's see how it does it. Good Chinese tourniquets versus a Russian guy. Bada bim! That was one soldier knocked out cold. Bada boom! Coming, yeah, bada boom! Another soldier knocked out cold. Do we have 3? Do we have 3? The opponents, gone. 3 tourniquets, 3 soldiers. Oh, it's 1 tourniquet, but it snaps, that's the point. A tourniquet, now they're testing another one. Tourniquet has to be strong, reliable, durable, not snap. Under any circumstances that a human being can do. Humans should not have a strength to break a tourniquet, otherwise it's a cheap Chinese one. This means death to a Russian soldier, right here. Let me open up this situation for a little bit, because I spent a lot of time with GUR in Ukraine and also SBU, and I was asking them a lot of questions about Russian corruption and Russian military system, how it works, the procurement process. Well, in all procurement money in Russia, most of the procurement comes from China, some of them from Russian military companies, but all of the money flows through these middlemen who take bribes, due to corruption. It's nothing new. Now, how it translates, how stealing the money, or like 10% or 20% of the procurement money for tourniquets, for example, how it translates to Russian deaths on the front. I'll open it up to you. Let's say this is 100,000 tourniquets right here. Russia, Vladimir Putin signed a decree, okay, we're going to buy 100,000 new tourniquets. I'll give you this amount of money. Let's say it's 300,000 USD, just a random number. Now there is a military high-up ranking guy who is responsible for military procurement of these tourniquets. He knows nobody will check him, because the rich fish rots from the head. It's a corrupt system. Nothing happens to him. He can steal the money, but he still has to deliver something. So he has an option. Okay, I take this 300K, I use it to buy good tourniquets that will save lives. Or there are cheaper tourniquets. There always are. In Chinese tourniquets, you can buy one for 1 cent if you want. AliExpress, go and check it out. I will destroy it with my own hands. It's so easy. But it's 1 cent. A good tourniquet in China costs about $15, $10. So what they do, they don't take the cheapest, but they don't take the one that saves lives. They take something in the middle, so that leaves 100k out of that 300 in their own pocket. So they take 1/3 cheaper. It's still a tourniquet, it comes, it looks the same, it acts the same unless you try to actually test it. The guy just made 100k like that. The tourniquets will be delivered, and if the soldiers complain that they break all the time and soldiers die, these guys up above know that they are responsible and they will quiet these soldiers. These complaints never get to Putin, never get to Shoigu. Even if they do, even Putin and Shoigu know that they are responsible for these systems, so they will quiet them. Everybody quiets the talks because everybody is winning or stealing, corruption. They're getting the money. So the only ones actually suffering are the soldiers, the bottom of the pyramid. And this is exactly how corruption very straight and direct way influences losses of the Russian army on the front. More losses, because it's not only tourniquets, it's missiles. They're not that accurate because a cheaper Alibaba infrared finder was put in. It's munitions. You pay 5k for a 155mm, or you pay through 2.5k for one munition. I mean, it's a huge difference if it explodes in a barrel or doesn't. But in one instance, some high-ranking officer gets millions in his pocket. But the shell is still delivered. So, in a very direct way, this corruption in Russia is influencing the fact that they cannot win this war. It's not. Most of the money is stolen. Now connected into a different topic, what it means to not have trained soldiers, not have educated soldiers. This is the same pink tourniquet, and the soldier got injured in the neck, so he's applying a tourniquet around his neck. Now, I wouldn't do it, because I know how blood vessels work in my body. I know what a point of tourniquet is, and I cannot save myself if I have this is not the way to do it. This is a way to go and get yourself demilitarized as good as possible, as fast as possible. But this video illustrates perfectly the education of Russian frontmen. They don't have any. They don't have training. They're only there for kilograms of meat per bullet, to soak up the Ukrainian ammunition, to soak up Western ammunition. And in this case, I guess, to demilitarize themselves. Now I will jump back for a slight moment to the previous corruption topic, because I was talking to a very high-ranking officer in the GUR. The rank don't matter, just a very high above guy. Now he knows they have connections in the Russian procurement system of the military money or procedure, however you want to call it. And they know for a fact that for every caliber cruise missile that Russia produces, 300,000 of that entire price will go to the procurement guy. The guy who gets order from Putin that we need 1,000 for next year. He's like, tak tochno, commandir, 1,000 coming right up. And then he goes to the factory, says 1,000, but this is the price. They say him the price. He says Putin allocates the money. But in that price, he added 300k per one missile just to his pocket. And if you add that up in a long term, we're not talking hundreds of millions, we're talking billions of USD that procurement guy is putting in the pocket. All of the procurement guys high above in the Russian military system, they are multimillionaires, hundreds of millions, some of them billions. So let's see how. So the unit cost of one caliber cruise missile in Russia is, domestic cost is 1 million. We don't have to talk about the export, but domestic cost is 1 million. The actual cost of this is about 500,000 per one cruise missile. I know this because this is a high top GUR information, and I asked specifically, is this OPSEC? Can I tell? They said, yeah, go ahead, talk. We're good. So this is not OPSEC. I can talk about this. It's confirmed in the Russian system that about 300k out of this amount will just go to a guy who is ordering the missiles. Just like that. That is the corruption. My friends in Ukraine, I still haven't been able to edit the videos because I've only slept 6 hours. I arrived yesterday, I'm already behind the camera, but I'll try to tell you what we did, so you'll get a perfect, juicy, edited video in a few days. But right now, I'll start with Noel. Military blogger Noel from X on Twitter. Amazing professional military blogger, very hardworking. I use his information. Now he gathered through his donators 125,000 and bought these small FPV drones for SBU Alpha Group. Now I was there to deliver my drones and also Noel's drones. So I want to thank you if you have been donating to Noel's campaigns. Thank you for doing that. That mission is accomplished. I personally handed these Noel's drones to Alpha Group, and they were very, very happy to receive them because they have one of the best kill ratios in the Ukrainian system at all. So I know what they translate into. You guys just made a lot of Russian tanks demilitarized. Thank you. I'll also be uploading my delivering process very soon. I also met with the United States former ambassador to Ukraine, William Taylor. And it wasn't only that, it was huge Ukrainian startups producing drones. There was William Taylor, the ambassador. It was GUR represented, SBU. Everybody was present. And we set the groundworks for the new tactics for Ukrainian victory. That's all I can say. Now, William Taylor is a remarkable man. The United States is well represented wherever he is. I have many more videos and stories to tell you, but I will spread them out throughout the video. So if you want to get them straight away and immediately, there are 3 ways to get them. Twitter, Instagram you get the stories, or Patreon. I'll do weekly Patreon sit-rep updates of behind the scenes of what it means to be a military blogger, so Patreon link is in the description below. Now, my friends, look at this photo. Patriot raid coverage line. If you look at the areas, the front line goes about like this where my cursor is, and when Patriot is here, it's a mid-range anti-air defense system. Doesn't really reach much into Russia. And also, it's very dangerous to keep a Patriot on this permanently, because it will be destroyed like any other anti-air defense system. But how is Ukraine capable of still shooting down Russian planes? Like 2 days ago, we got another one. What the hell? Well, I'll bring you a little commentary by David D, the Twitter user. The Ukrainian Air Force looks like it's sneaking German-style Patriot launchers to the front line and doing raids with them. Sneak in, quick shoot, haul ass out of the area. This is the most audacious use of a high-altitude long-range system I've ever seen. What they have done is take a strategic air defense system you normally need about 2 to 3 square kilometers to set up and run, and turned it into a long-range Stinger system. Haha, amazing. This goes against every book ever written about air defense deployment, and it's working. You cannot do this with the American-type system as easily. Doing so pushes the front line back for the Russians 130 to 160 kilometers. Yes, I also talked about GUR for this, not OPSEC. They cannot confirm it, but I'll speak to some rumors. So, Ukrainians are not shooting. They're seeing Russian aircraft all over the front. They're not shooting them. They learn the patterns. Russians fly and fly and fly for months. Oh, nothing happens. We can fly impunity. Then suddenly one day, boom, it's saturated with Patriots or Iris-T or name it, you name it, the Western air defense system. They go shoot everything down and pull back. Hit and run. A thing that is not in a NATO playbook for air defense. But Ukrainians use it like that because they're clever like that. Russians use the plane. They're like, what the hell happened? There was not supposed to be any air defense. What do we do? Okay, shoot at the air defense. And there's nothing there, and they waste their ammunition and blame somebody. Somebody goes to jail or flies out the window. And then a few months pass and same thing happens. Russia keeps losing the planes. This is genius and fully not according to any NATO doctrine. And it works. Now, my friends, I will show you a very cheap way to burn Russian vehicles. Ukrainians are good like that. They are incredibly clever if it comes to cheap and cost-effective ways, mass-producible ways to destroy extremely expensive Russian stuff. Thermite mixture, folium had in my head, you know. Thermite mixture, 500 to 530 gram. Aluminium pipe, circuit board, ignition, 200 grams. Trust me, bro, it works. Total weight 700 grams, reactions 3 to 4 seconds. Active combustion time is about 2 minutes. After this, the molten metal continues to work. Combustion temperature up to 2500 Celsius, which is, if you don't know Celsius, crazy hot. For setting fire to joint ventures, dugouts, armor vehicles, and automotive equipment. Cost about per unit 450 hryvnias, or about $12 per piece. Now, this is nothing. This you can find a $10 at the ground and pick it up, and this is one destroyed Russian vehicle, which can cost up to, let's say, T-90, what, 3 million? So, this is free. I'm gonna call it. This is free. And it destroys a $3 million piece of equipment. So it's genius, it's beautiful, it's mass producible, it's scalable. You can make it bigger and you can drop them by drones, as you can see on the video. But you do have to get very close. So they're good in destroying abandoned Russian vehicles that cannot be moved or salvaged. Love it. And it gives you an idea of the Ukrainian ingenuity. My friends, this is a Ukrainian FPV drone, but you can see this doesn't look Ukraine, doesn't look Russia. What is it? My friends, it's Sudan. Sudan is under Russian sphere of influence in Africa, the whole country. They have a pro-Russian dictatorship leading the country. But for the fact that this is a Ukrainian drone in Sudan, what are we talking about? Ukraine has to defend their own territory. How do they have the capacity and the strength and the ability to conduct these kind of missions in a Russian-controlled country in Africa? So this is an SBU operation. This shows you how far the reach of Ukrainian SBU goes. They demilitarize some pro-Russian mercenaries in Sudan. And also, this is a rather than losing these mercenaries, the bigger hit and the bigger damage is psychological to Russia. Russia is a big country. Okay, we're attacking Ukraine. They cannot do anything. They have to survive. They cannot look outside. Ukraine has SPU operators in Sudan. That shows you their capabilities to control multiple operations in multiple continents. Of course, thanks to the United States' aid, not naive enough to think that Ukraine would do this without the aid of the US, bring in satellites or bring in other high-tech equipment, recon equipment that I don't even know about, the AWACS flying above, feeding the targets to the Ukrainians. But still, the fact that Ukrainians are able to take this info and actually use it and conduct such missions, in my eyes, wow. Now, my friends, this next post is about giving credit where credit is due. The Netherlands has allocated 122 million to support Ukrainian ammunition supply, equipment and cybersecurity. Dutch Defense Minister Kaja Ollongren announced on January 29th. P.S. The Dutch government has prepared 2 billion for military aid in Ukraine in 2024. So countries like the Dutch, Netherlands, you know, they don't have big military, they don't have big army, and they're far enough from Russia not to be directly threatened by Russia. Even if Russia takes the Baltics and Ukraine and Poland, Netherlands might still be safe. But they help Ukraine with 2 billion this year. So in my eyes, big thank you, big respect for being able to see things through my eyes, Ukrainian eyes, Polish eyes. We're all in the same boat next to Russia here because we depend on your funds directly. We depend on your will to protect the weaker. We are a weaker country. That's how it is. Not ashamed to admit it, not ashamed to ask for help. So if you see fit, let's keep the freedom of Estonia, Latvia, Lithuania, then keeping me alive. Thank you for that. My friends, here we can see a photo of a Russian Kamaz truck, if I'm not mistaken, being hit by a Ukrainian FPV kamikaze drone. And I mean, if you gotta be a very lucky Russian for this, because mostly, even if a Ukrainian FPV goes through a window like that, it does explode. This one didn't. It was a dart. It should have exploded, but it didn't. So the guy's got another chance at life. I suggest to you, if you're the guy behind the wheel, go back to Russia, live a good life with your wife, stay away from this stuff. Now, I saw these bombs personally. I held them in my hand while in Ukraine with the GUR. This is an anti-tank round. It's meant for anti-armor. If it's hunting a truck, that means the battery is dying and they need to find a target because they cannot bring it back. So they settled at a less valuable target, but it didn't explode anyway. Now, this is usually an old RPG round or whatever old reused round. They don't produce stuff like that. This is old, very old Soviet munitions that have been converted into FPV drone munitions. And usually they use cumulative ammunition for anti-armor, for example, cumulative RPG, which first explosion opens up the armor and the second one goes inside and poof, a lot of steel balls bouncing around in the tank, making minced meat like the way Putin likes it. And this drone itself, I would call it like a bumblebee. It shouldn't fly. You look at it, it's a small drone, it has a huge battery on top, it has a huge bomb underneath. It's like a bumblebee. How the hell is it flying? It shouldn't be able to fly. But it's flying very fast and very far. My friends, I'll read you a report. Let's say the backstory. A Russian missile hit a house in Ukraine, which resulted in self-demilitarization of a Russian engineer who worked on that missile. I'll read you the report, because this is a bizarre, insane story. Get ready. A defense plant engineer demilitarized himself after his missile hit a residential building in Kharkiv. The man worked at the Kupol plant, which is part of the Almaz Antey concern. His meat was found by a friend of the deceased, who was concerned about the friend's absence from work. In the guy's pocket, there was a note why he did it. I, Gorobec Anton Igorevich, worked as an engineer at the main system design bureau, Almaz Antey Air Defense Concern, and named after Academian A.A. Raspletina. A few days ago, a rocket to which I had a hand flew to Kharkov, to the house where my grandmother on my mother's side lived. She was a casualty. So he worked on the missile and he was in the process of sending these missiles and sending the coordinates. He was very deeply connected to that process, which very directly got his grandmother killed. So he found that out and demilitarized himself. Because, my friends, Russia and Ukraine, before the war, there was a lot of marriages. They were like sister nations almost. A lot of people, most Russians know somebody in Ukraine, most Ukrainians know somebody in Russia. They have marriages, families. So Russian missiles going to Ukraine, Russian people's friends are dying. Russians blood relatives are dying because of it. So this is not an isolated incident. Most Russians don't self-demilitarize that for the reason, but if somebody is a casualty in Ukraine, people in Russia are in mourning. It's strange. Now, my friends, everybody likes to say, oh, Armata, T-14, Armata, the best main battle tank in the world. Well, first of all, up until now, only 20 prototypes have been produced, and the Putin's sentence that they're now in mass production and going to Ukraine. We haven't seen any footage. We see a lot of footage in Ukraine. Anytime Russia brings something, we immediately see it on all of the drones in Ukraine. So no Armata in Ukraine, maybe one or two, but nothing to influence the outcome of the war. Secondly, it is a good tank if it works. Mostly it doesn't work. We've seen it all the time breaking down. But thirdly, I'll read you, if the Armata even ever enters battlefield, it will be one of the most vulnerable main battle tanks to FPVs, precisely because of the thin turret armor. It's not just a problem with the roof of the turret like Abrams and Leopard, but the turret as a whole. The turret can apparently only withstand autocannon fire, and the 25mm Bradley Bushmaster cannon, it has proven itself against the T-90, which by Putin's world is the best main battle tank in the world, except for the Armata. We have many videos of the Bushmaster. A 50-year-old armament on a 50-year-old, 40-year-old infantry fighting vehicle rips to pieces the most modern mass-produced Russian main battle tank. So, if we get reports like this about Armata's main armor on the turrets, I would love to see American freedom-exporting Bushmaster autocannon going and Armata demilitarized. The vulnerability of the Abrams hull side against FPVs is no longer appears to be a problem, at least for the first hit. The M19 is also effective against anti-tank weapons like heat warheads. One was already able to immobilize a Leopard 2, which forced the crew to abandon the vehicle. Now, this tweet wants to say that the Abrams is not that vulnerable against FPVs, but here I have to say, I talked to many FPV operators in Ukraine. I talked to many leaders of drone crews who know which targets to pick and why and where to attack them. They have done deep analysis on that. They have used AI even to analyze vast amounts of footage, terabytes of footage. Now, the truth is this. No modern existing main battle tank can withstand FPV attacks. Without the jammer, if they just pummel the vehicle, 1, 2, 3 attacks, every tank in the world is destroyed. Every tank. This is what I saw, this is what they told me, this is their experience. Abrams is going, Challenger is going, Leopard is going, T-90 is going, every tank. The Korean K2 tank, I think, would be the same, the Merkava 4 tank. Just FPV drones, if you cannot jam them, they will take you down. That's the reality. If you jam them, yeah, you have a good jammer, they don't fly to you. But if they reach you with a heat or cumulative ammunition, one comes, another one comes, and with a 3, that's what I saw and what they told me. 3 hits from a cumulative ammunition to any modern main battle tank in the world, Western or Russian or Chinese, this tank will no longer exist. It comes down to whether the crew survives, which with the Russian tanks they don't, with the Western they do. Very good, great victory, but the tank itself will be destroyed. War right now is against the FPV drones. It's not about making the tank stronger, because to make it anti-cumulative ammunition, which could take like 3-4 hits from an FPV drone, that tank would need to be in the area of German Wunderwaffe, these huge like Maus tanks, like 500 tons tanks, like there is no way. Of course, if you think differently, put it in the comments. I'll read the comments and educate myself, because I'm no expert, I just talk to GeoWar guys. My friends, I'm able to go to Ukraine and focus on aiding Ukraine without making videos because Patreons. They're the security net. If I lose viewers because I don't upload for a week, if I lose monetization, if my ad revenue goes down, there are patrons who make sure I don't have to worry about that stuff. More of my mental energy and health is guided towards Ukraine, directly helping me to do what I do. And I'll be showing you all of the videos which we did in Ukraine. So I want to thank these people in the worst way possible by butchering their names to oblivion. Tina Skadeberg, Jan-Henry Bakkabo, Ketof Milavn, Richard Clark, Dimitri Tuit, Erin Nemetk, Jochen V.D. Ferguson, Jakob Bird, vhmtg@yahoo.com, Arkani Obz, Martin Koubek, Kol Grndadi Svets forever. Thank you to these people. Each and every one of you has made it easier for me to do what I do. I'll keep doing what I do. All of the patrons get weekly sit-rep of behind the scenes of how it is to be a military blogger and going to Ukraine, and all of the information I perhaps don't share on YouTube. So even if you only sign up for $1, you get access for that information. Thank you, my friends, and until my next video, which will be tomorrow, so be back. Slava Ukraini, and bye-bye.